Hey everybody, Brian Von Vier here, back at it again with another set of D&D stories. Which of your characters was your favorite character you've ever played, and why? Snowpea, the rogue halfling. She's a very expressive character that will tend to crack jokes depending on the situation, and currently has a handicap, one eye covered by an eye patch, so she rolls with disadvantage on vision-based perception checks. Every time I say, "I'd like to make a perception check," there's groans and laughter erupting around the party, as when she fails, I give her quips, which are all said in a butchered Scottish accent. Oh, I hope I can show mine off. Some players will go out of their way to ask Snowpea to look around, sometimes on purpose and other times because they forgot she rolls with disadvantage. It's hilarious when they ask her to do this, and after hearing the groans and laughter, hurriedly say, "No, wait," as I pick up my dice and roll. It's now a joke that when someone gets a nat 1 on a perception roll, Snowpea, due to her not paying attention or just plain not seeing them, will cause that person to fail if she's nearby. Example, the cat folk in our party wanted to use a perception check to look for a hooded figure that had been trailing us in the bar. He got a nat 1. The DM described how Snowpea didn't notice him following so close behind her and ended up slamming the bar's door right in his face with enough force to blur his vision and knock him backwards. I then had an oblivious Snowpea comment on this by saying, "What are you doing on the ground for? Quit lollygagging. This isn't the time to take a cat nap." Nivara, a neutral evil storm sorceress. She is out for vengeance against some noble that stole her ruby, which he claims she stole from him. Okay, to be fair, she did steal it, just not from him. Much to her displeasure, she is currently confined to an arena. While in the arena, she has a metal collar around her neck that will make her head explode if she uses a spell of 4th level or higher. Currently, she keeps her mood up by screwing around with teammates, guards, and other fighters. Shenanigans include writing a dozen different fight strategies and tactics on the walls of her cell in Ignam, but she's the only person in the ground who can read or speak the language. Using prestidigitation to make the symbol of a cult, which 2 of the people in the group are looking for appear on any mundane object or some surface. Soiling the business logbook of the gladiator shop so they have to rewrite the logbook from scratch. Putting a large, fake summoning circle on the ceiling of a teammate's room minutes before a guard could search the room. Currently, she is gathering money to buy herself out of the arena, 500 gold pieces, and she has 225. And trying to find followers so she can overthrow the kingdom that has locked her up and become the empress of the country herself. After she takes her ruby back, of course. I'd have to say Torxina, my half-elf protector Asimar life domain cleric. For nearly 2 years, that character was the center of my D&D life. Even when I wasn't playing her in that campaign for a short while, it was still all about her. She was doing things behind the scenes and was going to come back later as a surprise, where she would be revealed to have been the mysterious vigilante that the party had been hearing about for months. She was the kindest, gentlest soul who over time became the party mom. Another party member was the official leader of the party, but it was often Torxina who was actually guiding them with her wise counsel and gentle suggestions. When we were around level 8 and she sacrificed herself to ensure none of her friends would die, everyone at the table immediately threw every resource they had into bringing her back. She'd been disintegrated, so they had to gather up enough diamonds to find someone capable of casting true resurrection. After the party brought her back, she spent the entirety of the next session having individual conversations with everyone, thanking them for bringing her back and sharing intimate moments with each member of the party, telling them things she'd never said before because she always thought there would be more time. Her death made the possibility of death all the more real to the party. She went from being a naive, innocent woman who believed it was wrong to kill anyone no matter the circumstance at the start of her journey, to being a capable warrior who defended life by utterly destroying evil people. Her outlook on what life was all about changed too. She started out believing that life was to be protected. Over time, she came to believe that life was to be celebrated, and that a life lived without love or passion is no life at all. She lived life to the fullest in every way. You know you loved a character when you're writing a novel of their story in your spare time. That's how much I loved this character. Sadly, the campaign fell apart long before I got to finish Torxina's story. I missed that campaign so much. Thaya Ashwood, half-elven ranger, beastmaster, and bard, College of Swords. She's sort of a loner type who's torn between two things. She loves being away from people and exploring nature with her pet snake, Ellie, but she also finds personal fulfillment in performing for people by doing daredevil acts with Ellie. In roleplay, she's more of a ranger, but mechanically, she's more of a bard. I also accidentally made some very broken decisions when making her. For example, she has both the archery and two-weapon fighting styles because College of Swords lets you learn a fighting style in addition to second-level ranger. Ranger starts with 2 short swords and a longbow. On top of that, constrictor snakes can grapple enemies, so if she uses her action or actions wisely, she can take 2 advantage attacks on an opponent every turn until they escape Ellie's grasp. Also, because of the way multi-classing spell slots work, she can cast Hail of Thorns at a level up to 3rd, meaning 3d10 damage, dex save for half, in addition to the d8 plus 4 damage with a plus 9 to hit from the longbow. The main reason I like her is she hits the edgy stereotype of her favorite living thing being her snake. But she's not edgy herself, she just prefers the snake. In the long run, it'll eventually be revealed that she doesn't dislike people. She's just never spent enough time just talking to people. That's why she stays with the party. They aren't there to see her perform, they just like having her around. I'll try to summarize it as best as I can. I'm sorry if it gets lengthy. Hey, no big deal, I enjoy reading them. My favorite character that I made was the warlock to the goddess mentioned previously in another MrRipper video. Nesha was her name. The warlock was named Silas Hawthorne. He was once resident in a seaside town. He loved reading and writing, as his old job was working in a library. He was one day forced into hiding and homelessness when it was time to pay a notorious debt collector of the town a hefty sum, and thus Silas had to pack up all he could carry before burning his own house down and disappearing into the night. Years later, on one faithful night, worshippers of the old gods needed one last sacrifice to allow Nesha to be free to enter our world using the blade as a portal. They were looking for the last target, but Silas was at the wrong place and time. The cultists ended up grabbing him instead. He was knocked out and brought to the seaside cave where the goddess waited. When the cultists arrived, she was pissed. And yet, so were they, as the man was placed on an altar. After some tense back and forth and angering Nesha for the last time, they brought an innocent man to her. The cult leader plunged the blade into Silas's chest. He was dead. The warlock was revived by Nesha's magic days after the cultists were punished, but for a price. He is bonded to the blade, now in a pact with the goddess. Days later, the now reanimated warlock awoke to the sight of viscera and blood splattered about the darkened cave. He panicked for a bit, but was stopped by a presence that made itself known. He could sense how she felt. She never wanted it to end like this. He embraced this projection of her, both shedding tears. Much later, the two set off to get as far away from that town as possible in hopes of adventure and to find someone who will offer them help. In summary, man becomes a hobo to escape vicious debt collectors, potentially the mafia too, for a few years. Made into a warlock by an eldritch goddess. Traded one debt for another. Percival Azulon Zisurda, the half-elven valor bard paladin, fathomless warlock. Percival was born to his elven father, Anaran, and a Leviathan mother, Lorelei, who held the title Empress of the East over 500 years ago. Lorelei's former mate flew into a rage at the birth of a half-breed, and in a fit of jealousy attempted to murder both Percival and his father. While Anaran was killed, Lorelei and her daughter Almira arrived in time to save the young Percival and took him in, raising him in their secret cliffside home tended to by a group who worship the Leviathans as ocean gods. To keep him safe from threats that may seek to exploit him, his Leviathan half was sealed and he would not be able to access any of the abilities that came with it, though his inhuman traits occasionally show when he uses great amounts of power, primarily manifesting in a serpentine shadow. In time, his mother died after a traitorous servant had her killed to try and cement their own status as a mighty warrior. In a rage, Percy took up the sword for the first time and used it to violently massacre the killers. While his sister was crowned the new empress, Percy went into exile to try and tame his wild side, joining a paladin group called the Order of the Azure Soul, due to their dedication to the Order. Over his years of dedication, Percival proved to be a powerful warrior. However, on a group mission, he was betrayed by the rest of his team and left for dead after they murdered his loyal comrades. The traitors attempted to make off with a powerful artifact belonging to the Order. The artifact instead chose Percy to wield it, sensing his rage at the betrayal, and he used it to slaughter them. The artifact in question? A sword known as Last Rite, capable of rending an opponent's soul in a single blow. Afterwards, he was rewarded for his efforts. He was offered the artifact, but instead chose to have it kept within the bowels of the Azure Soul home base, Alima Castle, as he disliked the ruthless personality it forced upon him. This incident, combined with the events leading to his mother's death, led Percy to gaining an unrivaled hatred of traitors. He mowed down those who betrayed the Order and became oath breakers, occasionally utilizing Last Rite against challenging opponents, in time being granted a unique position by the head of the Order, the Huntsmaster. After defeating an especially notable traitor, Percy has a deal with the goddess of death Aster, his Order's patron goddess, which negates the effect of aging, perpetually keeping him in his prime. However, he loses his power every 100 years and must regain it again. As a result, he has walked the world for over 500 years. Despite the rather grim nature of his position, Percy is actually a rather kind and jovial man who often acts more like the fun uncle of his younger Order members as opposed to a feared superior officer. Dad jokes very much included. Percy also found a passion for teaching others and offering advice to the many apprentices he's taken over the years, even pausing during life-threatening battles to offer encouragement. Unfortunately, his most recent apprentice had turned traitor, forcing him to begin the arduous task of hunting him down. Eventually, he met the party, and with a common goal, he wound up standing by them as both a powerful jack-of-all-trades and a wise mentor. TLDR, the wise old mentor figure sticks around and kicks some serious ass, proves that villains are usually smart to get rid of them early on. Slowfook, a 200-plus-year-old Tortle monk, way of the open hand. He forgot his real name and the party kept calling him Slowfook because of his deceptively slow walking speed and his old mind. He was also very hard of hearing, so he heard Slowfook instead of Slowfuck. He only ever moved at his maximum speed when the party couldn't see him, so in character, they all thought he could teleport because he would just show up in random places. He would also give good but not useful advice for a few coppers, and occasionally open up a can of whoop-ass on rude enemies with dope monk shit, like sending them flying up 15 feet. I wish I could say he died a heroic death, but it wasn't meant to be. When an overcast fireball came roaring at him, he failed his saving throw. He simply shrugged at the party and said, "My time has come, I think." Hey everybody, Brian Von Via here. Thank you for stopping by. Make sure to keep yourself hydrated, safe, happy, and healthy. Make sure to like, subscribe, and to ring that bell if you want to get notified whenever we post or go live. Also, check out our secondary channel, Riptovia, for more video goodness on D&D, of course. And if you have a story you'd like to submit to us, be sure to do so at r/MrRipper. Links are in the description below. And lastly, using a help action, come say hi to me, Brian Von Via, on Twitch and YouTube. All the love, be safe, be happy, and we will see you next time.